Hello, welcome back to Garden Obsessed. My name is Carla, and today we are talking about week 6 of the Pantry Challenge. So week 6 it started out on a high and kind of went downhill from there. First we'll talk about what we bought at the grocery store, then I'll show you a few things that we made, and then I'll discuss the rest of the week. Okay, so we went to the grocery store twice. We went the first time we were out of eggs, so we picked up 2 dozen. They were $3.49 each. And we picked up a 10-pound of potatoes that was $2.99. So that came to $9.97. The second time that we went, we were getting low on cheese, heading into a weekend with the kids. So cheese was on sale, like I don't know what they are, 400-gram blocks-ish. So they were $3.97 each. We got 2. Bacon was also on sale for $3.77. And usually one day that we have the kids, there's Lola, we have bacon and eggs, but we hadn't been doing that because we had no bacon, but it was a really good price. The bacon looked really good and we hadn't had any in quite a while. So we picked up 2 of those. They had a package of 3 romaine hearts that were quite large, so we got a package of those. They were $2.88. Avocados were on sale for $3.88 for 5, so we picked up a package of those. And there was a discounted salad which we paid $3.49 for, and I remember when that was like the full price not that long ago. So anyway, we did pick up that salad. So that trip came to $25.73, so for a total of $35.70 for week 6. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a few of the things that we made this week. Then we'll come back and we will talk about the rest of the things that we ate this week. All right, so we had an Epicure pack for beef and broccoli, and there was some mystery beef in the freezer. I wasn't sure what it was. It ended up being steak, so I just thinly sliced it, gave it a quick stir fry, and I'm adding my 4 cups of broccoli to that to kind of soften it before I dumped in the sauce. It was just like a powdered sauce you add water to, give it a whisk, and when you dump that in, it will start to thicken. In the pot behind the stir fry here, I just had some brown basmati rice that I cooked up just according to directions, and that was pretty much it. This was a really simple dinner. Jarrett and I both liked it, and you can see that it made quite a lot, and we had leftovers that we had for lunch the next day. I would definitely get this again. Epicure isn't something I generally have access to, but my mom had given us some for Christmas, and we had seen some at a local, Christmas craft fair and picked up a few. And, if we come across them again, I will definitely get the beef and broccoli. It was good. We've been missing some snacky type things, and so I decided to make some. These are originally protein balls, but I hate balling them up, so I just always press them into like bars and squares. But I had some oats, some just quick cook oats in the bottom of this bowl. I'm adding some coconut to that. We had everything on hand. I didn't need to pick up anything, so it was kind of a no-brainer, and this actually ended up using up the rest of some quick oats that we had, so that's always fun. I'm just adding this is some golden ground flax. You can use any flax. If you have whole flax seeds, you can grind them up yourself, but these I've had, so they weren't open, but I'm keeping these things in the freezer now to keep them nice and fresh. And then I'm going to also go ahead and add some chia seeds. This is actually a recipe that I got from the kid's mom, And it's a recipe that she makes for them quite often, so I started doing it as well. Jarrett really likes them. I really like them. They're quite tasty. They're mostly really good ingredients, although here I am using Kraft peanut butter. You can definitely use like an all-natural peanut butter. This is just what we had in the house, so this is what I am using. We've dug out a few more ingredients here. I'm going to throw in a splash of vanilla. This is vanilla that I've extracted myself. I bought this little bottle of vodka and just chucked some vanilla beans in there. This isn't usually an ingredient. This is like some chopped peanuts, but I had these left over from a Christmas treat, and they've been laying around, so I just threw those in as well. I'm gonna go ahead and add some cocoa powder here as well. I think this is one of those really forgiving recipes that literally whatever you have laying around the house you could throw in here. The peanuts ended up being really good. I think there's other nuts that you could throw in as well. To bind it all together, I'm going to go ahead and add some honey. I had this little teeny tiny jar of honey that's been kicking around, so I was like, let's get this out of the cabinet and get this used up. So I'm going to dump that in. I also had another jar of honey. A lot of it was actually crystallized, which you'll see when I start pouring it in. And I did end up putting it in a sink full of hot water to kind of liquefy again, but I got impatient and I ended up just topping up the little bit that I was missing with some maple syrup. It's actually our homemade maple syrup. And usually we start tapping trees around the end of February, but I'm starting to kind of pay attention to the weather now. I know in Southern Ontario, they're at least a week ahead of schedule, and I'm expecting we might be too. So next week we might be tapping maple trees, but I'll be sure to give you guys an update. And if you haven't seen these mason tops before, this just makes it awesome for things like this. You could also use it for oil, vinegar, things like that, but I like to just screw it onto a new bottle when we open it of maple syrup, and it makes it super easy to pour. So getting this mixed up is probably literally the hardest part of this process. There's no baking or cooking or anything involved, and it does take a few minutes before you can work that peanut butter and the honey and maple syrup into all of the dry ingredients. You want to make sure you get it really well incorporated so everything is nice and hydrated. So here we have everything all mixed up. You can see it's, nice and mixed together. I've got a little bit of parchment lining just like a loaf pan. You could go ahead and roll these into balls at this point if you wanted, like little 3/4 inch balls is typically what the kid's mom usually does, but I like to press them into a pan and cut them. It, keeps my hands a lot cleaner and I find it a lot quicker. So I'm just going to dump everything in here, and then I'm going to get another piece of parchment and use that to press the ingredients down really firmly into the bottom of the pan. You really do want to make sure it's nice and firm, because I said, this isn't like a baked bar or anything like that. So it's really just the pressure that you're applying that is going to keep these together. And as soon as I get this pressed nice and firmly, we're going to stick it in the fridge to firm up even more before we cut it. So this is what it's looking like. You can tell it's pressed in nice and firmly here, and we'll get these into the fridge. Here are our squares. After I've just pulled them out of the fridge, they were probably in there for half an hour or so. They're still soft enough to cut. I'm just kind of giving myself a guide here for about what size I want to cut them. I ended up getting, I think it was 18 squares out of this recipe. And that's like a perfect little size for a little snack or treat. These I always put in a airtight container, and I keep them in the fridge to keep them nice and firm and keep, the honey and the maple syrup and the peanut butter nice and firm. They could last in the fridge probably for up to a week, but honestly, these never make it past, I don't even think these lasted for 2 full days after I made them. As soon as everyone knows they're made, they go pretty quick. All right, we're making some creamy mushroom pasta this night. To go along with that, we are air frying some Brussels sprouts. I tossed them in a little bit of oil, and really you could add any seasoning. I think I added that Cajun seasoning that I had purchased. And I just stuck those in the air fryer to go along while I made the rest of dinner. There is some pasta going in that pot behind my frying pan here, and I'm just gonna melt some butter and get the mushrooms cooking before I added my chicken. What I'm using for chicken is it's a single chicken breast that I sliced really thinly so that it'll cook up really quickly. I went ahead and cut that against the grain as well when I sliced it so that when I give it a stir fry, it will remain nice and tender. So at this point, I've drained my pasta. The mushrooms have done their sweating bit and are starting to brown up, and I'm gonna go ahead and add my chicken. It's gonna cook super quickly. Once that chicken was cooked through, I went ahead and added some garlic, gave that a few seconds to kind of pan fry a little bit. And then I added some seasonings and some of the ingredients to actually make the cream sauce that we're gonna put in our pasta. All right, we're gonna start adding some seasonings. So this is thyme that we actually grew in the garden. When I stripped the leaves, they're whole in this bottle, so I like to just give them a little crush when I add them to whatever I'm adding them to. And we're gonna let those kind of stir around and become aromatic. You can add a dry white wine at this point. We actually had some non-alcoholic white wine. I can't remember why we had that, but I'm gonna go ahead and add that and deglaze the pan, and that's gonna be the beginning of our sauce. To that, I am adding some of our homemade chicken broth. You could use vegetable broth, whatever. I've even used bouillon cubes if I've had to. And as soon as I add that, I'm also going to add our cream. And this is the most delicious, decadent, like this is a treat meal for us. We don't have this very often, but we had those mushrooms, they were a great deal, and we were like, let's make some mushroom cream sauce and have some pasta. So I'm gonna go ahead and cook this down some. I just want the liquid to kind of reduce. I want any of that wine to be cooked off, and I want to see it start to thicken. Then I'm gonna add a little slurry of cornstarch and water, and that will really start to thicken it quite a bit. And you just want to cook this until it reaches, you know, your desired thickness. If you want it a little bit thicker, you can cook it a little longer. And I do find that when I add the pasta, some of the starch from the pasta will actually help thicken it even a little bit more. When we're getting close to the end here, I'm going to go ahead and add some parsley and give that a stir in. We're almost done. I'm just adding in the pasta here, and I'm gonna give that a good stir and make sure everything is coated really well. My pasta's sticking a little bit just because I had it finished cooking a little before I would have liked, but no big deal. I'm just gonna go through, make sure I break all of those up. And that's it. Then we are done to serve. The Brussels sprouts were finished cooking in the air fryer while I was making this, so we're ready to dish up. This is a really delicious meal. If you like mushrooms and you like creamy sauces, you need to make this. It's so good. It's simple. It doesn't actually take that long. And for us anyway, the ingredients are typically things we have on hand. If we have mushrooms, we typically have everything else. You know, I have cream for my coffee, so this is a pantry meal winner in our books. Okay, So the dishes that you saw us make, that was enough that we also had leftovers. So we ate some of those for other meals through the week. For breakfasts, we made breakfast sandwiches one day, still on the boiled eggs train, and had energy bites a couple of mornings along with eggs. One morning I didn't feel like cooking, which I'll get to, and there was still chili in the fridge, so I just had chili for breakfast. Didn't even care. And then we had bacon and eggs with the kids the first morning that they were with us this past weekend. So the first half of the week we did really good. Like everything that I just showed you was from the first 2 days. Actually, I think it was all the first day. I made a lot the first day. I knew we'd be able to eat it for a couple days. In addition to that, it was my dad's birthday. So we had Chinese food, which I'm not including in the prices of everything. Like special occasions, I'm not even worrying about. So we had Chinese food with my dad and my brother and my mom and Jarrett and I. And I also made, I had in the freezer they were discounted chicken breasts that had been marinated by the grocery store, you know, like those packs that they have. So we had those barbecued for supper one night, and along with that I made some rice and Brussels sprouts, or it was leftover rice, I can't remember now. This is around the middle of the week, this is when I knew I was starting to not feel well. It was lunchtime, Jarrett and I were both home, and I just was like, I don't have anything in me. So we had mac and cheese that was in the fridge, or in the freezer, that I just had to add crackers on top and some milk to the bottom. And we cooked that in the air fryer. We had that for lunch. That night for supper, I just was like, I can't do it. And Jarrett was like, why don't we just order pizza? And I was like, okay. So we ordered pizza. He wouldn't tell me how much it was because he knew I would write it down. And we had leftovers for that the following day. That following day, that evening, Jarrett knew I still wasn't feeling well, and he barbecued some chicken, and we had that on that salad that we had purchased. The next day, I still don't feel well, and everything's okay. Like, I know I started a new medication and it's just kind of taken me out. So we had a shepherd's pie in the freezer, and I was like, we're having this. So cooked that in the air fryer as well. And then we had the kids, we picked up the kids, we had that for lunch, and we picked up the kids that evening, and we just had tacos. Like nice and easy, simple meal. The last day, we, you know, still wasn't quite right. So we had some enchiladas that were frozen in the freezer. We ended up cooking one of those. The boys ate that, and I made some Kraft dinner for Ari and I, and we all had Caesar salad with it. And then the last supper of the week, we made homemade pizzas. Jarrett made it. He made the dough, he cut up all the ingredients, and we literally just had to fix our own pizza, and he actually barbecued them, and they were so good. They were really, really good. So, I think I'm starting to come around now. Now that we're into week 7, it just, you know, one of the side effects is nausea, and it just has not been good. So, you know, it is what it is. So we're just trying to get through it. Once I get adjusted to them, it will be fine. It's just, you know, that initial, you know, getting used to it. And I tend to be a sensitive person, so if there's a chance it may cause nausea, it tends to. So it is what it is, and we're getting through it. But I think also because I'm still dealing with that, and I think a lot of people, you know, in January, everyone's like, yay, pantry challenge. And in February, it seems like interest is starting to peter out. So I think I won't do another summary video until we actually get to the end of February. So the next 2.5 weeks, and then at the end, I'll do one final summary and we'll do a pantry tour and see, you know, what we've worked through and, you know, how much has gone from the shelves and out of the freezer, although we have been replacing stuff in the freezer, but you know, we've talked about that as we've gone. So I think that's what I will do. It's getting to seed starting season. There's some other videos and things that I want to share and projects that I want to do. And, you know, I'm not done with Pantry Challenge, but I think the weekly videos are a bit much right now. So that's where we're at. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And we've got lots of gardening stuff coming up and I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I can't wait for spring. I thank you for watching and we'll see you next time.